Look, it's the barista investor. The executives laughed when I walked into the shareholders' meeting. You really think your pathetic $5,000 investment gives you a voice here? The CFO sneered as others chuckled. I smiled politely and took my seat in the back row. When the CEO finally arrived, he pointed at me and said, "Meet the anonymous buyer who now owns 51% of our company." My name is Aria Valdez. I'm 32 years old, and for 11 years, I've been a ghost. I work the graveyard shift at Vertex Technologies, a silent fixture in the ecosystem of glass walls and hushed ambition. My job is to prep catering for meetings that start after everyone else has gone home, and to keep the espresso machine hissing for executives who mistake caffeine for genius. They don't see me. They see a function, a pair of hands that refills a cup or clears away a plate. But I see them. I hear them. From the service alcove, I watch Bradley Knox, our charismatic CEO, practicing his confident speeches in the dark reflection of the boardroom window, perfecting the smile that will grace the cover of business magazines. I hear Darren Pike, our numbers-obsessed CFO, laughing on the phone about rounding errors that are larger than my life savings, his voice slick with casual contempt for the details he's paid to manage. 11 years ago, I scraped together every dime I had after dropping out of college to help my mom and dad with the bills. I put that $5,000 into this company's stock. It was an act of faith. Pike once saw my small investor notification on a shared printer in the executive suite. He picked it up, waved it in the air, and said to Knox, "Look at the barista, playing with the big boys." They both laughed, a short, barking sound that bounced off the polished granite. I never forgot the heat that crept up my neck in that moment. They think I just pour coffee. They don't know I read every financial report and every memo they leave, scattered on the tables I clean each night. They don't know I'm a ghost who remembers everything. My best friend, Nadia Flores, works in quality assurance. She's the most meticulous person I know, a woman who sees code like poetry and finds beauty in flawlessness. Last week, that world came crashing down. A major client tore up a $3.2 million contract, citing a massive failure in our flagship software. Knox and Pike held an emergency meeting so late that the sky outside was bruised purple. I served them coffee, my movements silent, and listened from the shadows of the alcove. They needed a scapegoat, and they needed one fast. Pike didn't even hesitate. He leaned forward, his voice a low conspiracy. "Blame the testing oversight," he said. "Pin it on Flores' team. She's thorough, so no one will question it when we say she missed something this big." Within 48 hours, Nadia was fired for gross negligence. Security guards, men who usually just nodded hello to her, walked her out of the building like a criminal. I tried to speak up. I went to the office of Maya Patel, the head of HR. She gave me a sad, practiced look and a canned speech about corporate policy. As I turned to leave her sterile office, she leaned in and whispered, "Aria, some trees are too big to shake. Be careful you don't get crushed." That night, I watched through the glass as Pike, sitting alone in his corner office, authorized a 7-figure bonus for himself on his tablet. He smiled as he did it. And I knew I couldn't just be careful anymore. My first move was to find proof, something tangible to show that Nadia couldn't have made a mistake that catastrophic. I knew I had to talk to someone on the inside, someone in finance. I cornered Ethan Cole, a mid-level finance manager who always looked like he was about to be hit by a bus, in the echoing quiet of the parking garage after his shift. The air smelled of concrete and exhaust fumes. I asked him about the project budget, if funds had been cut from quality assurance before the big launch. He wouldn't make eye contact. His eyes darted around the empty garage as if assassins were hiding behind the support columns. "I can't talk about this," he stammered, his hands fidgeting with his briefcase strap. "They watch everything. They read everything." He practically ran to his car, leaving me standing there under the flickering fluorescent lights. My direct tactic had failed. The whole system was built on a foundation of fear, and I was just the barista. No one was going to risk their mortgage for me or for Nadia. The next day, a memo announced another round of brutal budget cuts for research and development, the very heart of the company, while a separate glossy email celebrated the executive team's, quote, performance bonuses. I felt the walls closing in, the air getting thin. Every official door was locked, bolted from the inside. Every person with a key was too scared to even touch the handle. That evening, I logged into my small investor co-op account. I'd spent years convincing 198 of my neighbors, cousins, and friends to invest alongside me. Their combined trust felt like a heavy weight on my chest. My official attempts to get answers had done nothing but put a target on my back. Maya Patel's warning echoed in my head. A different way. I had to find a different way. The company uses dozens of vendors for everything from office supplies to catered executive retreats. It's my job to collect and file the invoices for all the food and event services. Late one night, I was sorting through a stack of paperwork Pike had left carelessly on a conference table. Stained with a ring from his coffee cup, tucked inside the stack, an invoice felt wrong. The paper was too crisp, the font just slightly off. It was from a company I'd never heard of, Synchro Solutions, for strategic consulting services. The amount made my stomach clench. $250,000. I'd been here for over a decade. I knew all our major partners. I'd never heard of them, and the address listed was just a post office box in a small town in Delaware I knew was famous for being a place where people set up anonymous companies. On a hunch, I slipped into an empty break room and used the public computer, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I searched the state's public business database. Just as I suspected, Synchro Solutions was a shell corporation. The registered agent was a firm that specialized in hiding the real owners of companies. But the firm's name was familiar. I'd seen it before, printed on a piece of Pike's personal mail he'd once dropped by the coffee machine without noticing. It was his guy. My heart hammered against my ribs. He was billing Vertex for fake services and funneling the money into his own pocket. This wasn't just mismanagement. It was outright theft. The client meltdown, Nadia's firing, it was all a brilliant, cruel distraction to hide this. He'd gutted Nadia's budget to fund his own scheme, then blamed her when it all fell apart. I printed the corporate registration record. Holding that single piece of paper, my hands were shaking. This was the proof. This was the weapon. My bridge to playing by their rules was officially burned to the ground. Evelyn Park, the founder's widow, was a ghost of a different kind. She still came to the headquarters once a week, a quiet, elegant woman who walked the halls her husband had built, her expression a mixture of pride and sorrow. I was the only one she ever really spoke to beyond a polite hello. She'd ask about my day, about my family. She remembered my name. She saw a person, not just a function. She still held 35% of the company in a family trust. She had immense power, but she never interfered with the board, content to let her husband's legacy run itself. Last Tuesday, I found her in the small memorial library on the top floor, looking at a framed photograph of her late husband. The room was silent, except for the gentle hum of the air conditioning. "He wouldn't recognize this place, Aria," she said, her voice thin as old paper. "The heart is gone. It's just a machine for making money now." This was it. This was my opening. It was a terrifying leap, but it was the only one I had left. I took a deep, steadying breath, the scent of old books and lemon polish filling my lungs. "Mrs. Park," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I think I know how to get the heart back, but I can't do it alone." We sat in that quiet library for 2 hours as the city lights began to sparkle to life outside the panoramic window. I didn't just tell her my suspicions. I laid out the cold, hard facts. I showed her the Synchro Solutions invoice and the corporate filing I'd printed, connecting the shell company back to Pike's personal dealings. I told her about Nadia, about the crippling R&D cuts, about the suffocating culture of fear that Ethan Cole represented. I didn't just ask for her shares. I presented a vision, a return to the principles her husband had built the company on, a company that valued its builders, not its bluffers. She was sharp. She tested me, asking hard questions about my plan, about my understanding of the market, about what my first move would be. She wanted to know if I was just angry, or if I had a real strategy. Finally, after a long silence where she just studied my face, she nodded slowly. "My husband believed in people like you and that girl, Nadia," she said softly. "Not men like Pike." She agreed to sell her trust's 35% stake to my cooperative. But she had conditions. We had to reinstate the apprentice programs her husband had started, dedicate $15 million to actual product development, and create a real path for hourly workers like me to advance. I agreed to every single one. This wasn't about simple revenge anymore. It was about a restoration. The goal was no longer just to expose a thief, but to take back the entire company. Pike and Knox must have sensed something was off. Maybe Maya Patel reported my probing questions about Nadia, or maybe Ethan Cole's nervousness was too obvious. A new wave of restructuring began. It was a purge disguised as efficiency. A brilliant young engineer in R&D, a man named Leo, who had been quietly feeding me information about stalled projects and cratering morale, was one of the first to be let go. Just like that, I lost a key source inside the company's creative core. Security suddenly got tighter than a drum. New keycard protocols were activated overnight, and my late-night access to the executive floors was restricted. The server rooms and the physical file storage in the basement were now completely off-limits. The places where I could safely dig for more information were gone. Pike started holding his most sensitive meetings off-site in bland, anonymous hotel conference rooms. He was locking down his fortress. The atmosphere in the building grew heavy and toxic. People stopped talking in the hallways, their eyes glued to their phones as they walked. The message from the top was brutally clear. Keep your head down or it will be chopped off. The pressure was building on my end too. My plan with Evelyn depended entirely on the element of surprise, but our targets were already fortifying their castle, sensing a siege without knowing who the enemy was. Every day felt like a day closer to discovery. The night after Leo was fired, my phone buzzed with a frantic text from an unknown number. "Parking garage, level 4, now." My blood went cold. When I got there, Ethan Cole was waiting for me, huddled between 2 parked cars. He was pale and sweating, though the concrete garage was cool. He told me they'd scheduled his performance review for the next morning. He knew he was on the chopping block. "I'm not going down for him," he whispered, his voice shaking as he shoved a small silver flash drive into my hand. "It's all on there, everything." It was the smoking gun. It was more than I could have hoped for. Not just the rest of the fake vendor invoices, but copies of emails from Pike explicitly pressuring managers, including Ethan, to adjust their quarterly reports to hide the financial drain from his schemes. This was the final damning reveal. It wasn't just one man stealing from the company. It was a full-blown conspiracy to defraud the shareholders, orchestrated from the very top. The annual shareholders Meeting was in 5 days. The company had just posted the official agenda online. My last safe option, gathering more evidence slowly and carefully, was gone. Knox and Pike were cleaning house, cutting away anyone who knew anything. This flash drive was the last piece of ammunition I was ever going to get. We had one shot, and it had to be at that meeting. It was now or never. The quiet war of whispers and secrets was about to become very, very loud. It's the night before the meeting. The weight of 198 families, of Evelyn's trust, of Nadia's future is a physical thing, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Carla Mason, the retired accountant who acts as the treasurer of our co-op, calls me, her voice trembling. A news report just announced that a senior board member, a man named Elliot Barnes, has given his full public endorsement to Knox's leadership. He was our potential swing vote, our safety net if something went wrong. He's gone. Then, a rumor so specific it had to have been planted by Pike's office hits the financial news wires about, quote, instability in Vertex's product pipeline. The stock ticks down a few points. It's a warning shot across our bow. Then, Nadia calls. She sounds more defeated than I've ever heard her. She was turned down for another job today. The blacklisting is real and it's working. Maybe they were right, Aria, she says, her voice cracking. Maybe I did mess up somehow. Hearing the doubt in her voice is the blow that almost breaks me. This whole impossible fight is for her, and she's starting to lose hope. I hang up and sit alone in my small apartment, staring at the framed stock certificate on my wall, my first $5,000. It looks so small, so fragile. It's a pathetic start, just like Pike said. For one terrifying moment, I feel like an absolute imposter. A barista playing a billionaire's game, a child in a suit that's too big for her. But then I reach out and touch the cool glass over the certificate. It's the only thing that's felt real for months. It's my one fragile, earned possibility. And it will have to be enough. I walk into the downtown hotel ballroom wearing a simple black dress I bought on sale. I'm not an executive. I'm not even a manager. But today, I'm a shareholder. The room is a sea of expensive dark suits and the low hum of powerful men talking business. Knox and Pike are at the head table, commanding the room, basking in the spotlight. They don't see me until I take a seat in the back row, near the exit. Pike leans over to Knox and gestures toward me with his pen. I can't hear what he's saying from this distance, but I can see the cruel smirk on his face. I know he's telling the story again, the one about the barista with the pathetic starter investment. A few men in the front row turn, look at me, and chuckle. The meeting starts. Knox gives a soaring speech about record profits and bold futures, a performance I've seen him practice a dozen times in an empty boardroom. He moves smoothly to the standard procedural items. He's confident, arrogant, in complete and utter control of his world. Then he gets to the section for new business filings. He glances at the company's general counsel, a quiet man named Thomas Reed. Anything to report, Tom? Knox asks, the question a dismissive formality. Thomas Reed, a man I've only ever seen with a neutral expression, slowly adjusts his glasses. Yes, Mr. Knox, he says, his voice calm and clear, cutting through the room's low murmur. A significant filing was made late yesterday. He picks up a document from the table in front of him. A cooperative of 199 investors, led by Ms. Aria Valdez, has acquired the 35% stake held by the Park Family Trust. A ripple of confusion spreads through the room. Pike's condescending smile vanishes, replaced by a tight, angry line. Reed continues, his voice unwavering. Combined with their existing holdings, the cooperative now controls 51% of all voting shares. The room goes completely silent. You could hear a pin drop on the thick carpet. Knox's face is a mask of stunned disbelief. He scans the crowd, his eyes wide and searching, until they finally land on me in the back row. I stand up. My legs feel surprisingly steady. My voice is level and clear, carrying easily in the stillness. I call for a new agenda item, a vote of no confidence in CEO Bradley Knox and CFO Darren Pike, effective immediately. Pandemonium erupts. Knox starts sputtering, trying to rule it out of order, but Reed cuts him off with a raised hand. "The motion is valid," he states flatly. "The majority shareholder has the floor." The vote is a formality. It passes. Just like that, it's over. Knox and Pike are stunned into a state of shocked, silent paralysis. I walk from the back of the room to the podium, the sea of dark suits parting before me. I tap the microphone, and the small sound echoes through the ballroom. This isn't just about poor leadership. I say, my voice now amplified, filling every corner of the vast space. It's about a criminal conspiracy to defraud this company and its shareholders. I hold up the small, silver flash drive from Ethan. This device contains proof of embezzlement through a network of fake vendors and evidence of the systematic falsification of financial reports, all ordered by Mr. Pike. I walk over and hand the drive directly to Thomas Reed. I expect this to be turned over to the proper authorities, and I move to halt any and all severance packages for Mr. Knox and Mr. Pike, pending the results of a federal investigation. Before either of them can find their voice to protest, I make my final announcement. Effective immediately, the board is appointing Dr. Keiko Lin from our own research and development department as interim CEO. A gasp goes through the employees in the room. Keiko, an innovative and respected engineer, is a legend. Furthermore, I continue, we are establishing a $3 million fund to review all wrongful terminations from the past year and to rehire the talent this company tried to throw away. Nadia Flores will be the first person we call. I look directly at Pike and Knox, the men who laughed at my $5,000 dream. They aren't laughing now. They're just irrelevant. 3 months later, the world looks different. Vertex's stock is up 42%. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. I'm the chairwoman of the board now, a title that still feels like a suit I'm trying on. The fight took everything I had. There were nights I thought the stress would swallow me whole. But the reward is seeing the life, the actual creative energy, come flooding back into the building. Nadia is back, running a new, empowered quality assurance division that has the final say on all product releases. She's smiling again, a real, genuine smile that reaches her eyes. I never took the corner office. That was never the point. I work with Keiko and the new board, but my favorite place is still near the heart of the company, where things are actually being made. This morning, I went down to the cafe. The new R&D apprentice class, the first in over a decade, was grabbing coffee, their voices buzzing with excitement and new ideas. I got behind the counter, my hands remembering the familiar, comforting motions of grinding beans and steaming milk, and poured a cup for Keiko, who was sketching a new design on a napkin with 2 of the young engineers. She looked up at me as I set the cup down, her eyes bright with purpose. She smiled. "Thanks, boss." I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was the foundation. And we were finally building something that would last. Revenge stories come in all shapes and sizes, and I bet some of you have your own. Share your story of getting the last laugh in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and keep watching for more stories like this one.